20.
20. Today is 20 August, and we're pleased to be talking to Marsha Smith and talking about a number of things, but especially her granddaughter, Austin Smith. So, Marsha, when did you and Greg and Brent come here?
We've been here 20 years, just about 20 years. I used to do a little church shopping when I was on vacation here, and I almost always went up the road. And then we moved in here, and my mom was visiting, so we went to another local Episcopal church, and that was okay, but we decided no. And the next Sunday we came here when we were over in the little chapel, and halfway through the service, my mom just leans over and says, "I don't think you need to go anyplace else. I think they can use you here." So there I landed.
Was Tony Campbell the priest at that time?
Tommy Tipton.
Tommy Tipton.
Tommy Tipton was here,
And the composition, was it about half and half black or a little more black, or?
no, probably more white, probably, yeah.
But still, there were.
Yeah.
Still, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and
And had we had our diocesan crisis by then?
it was working on it then. That's why I didn't, get involved with the other church. It was, because no.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be involved in any of that.
Well, you're involved whether you want to be or not.
Yeah.
Had you grown up in Episcopalian?
I had cradle Episcopalian.
And this was Maryland.
Maryland, yeah.
And which part?
Oh, well, not too far out of D.C., 15, 20 miles out of D.C. My dad had a truck farm, and he would haul his stuff into D.C. when he was a young man, and we lived there on a big farm, and then we moved from that when Susie and I are the babies of the family when we were 5.
Did you go to the cathedral?
Occasionally, not very often.
And Greg, was he Episcopalian?
Greg's a Catholic, no.
Oh my goodness, the one true church. We're under the junior varsity to them, yeah.
Right. He went to Catholic school and was raised Catholic.
In the same area?
Well, vicinity, yeah.
And did y'all meet at college, or?
Golly. I think it was through my sister was dating a friend of his. I have to.
Okay, and you went to University of Maryland, didn't you?
I ended up there. I started at Western Maryland and then ended up at university.
Oh. I think Western Maryland may have changed its name.
It did. It was called, yeah.
That is a beautiful campus.
It was.
Yeah. Well, when did Brett come along?
Brett was born in 77.
77. 77.
So we were still living in Maryland then, and of course. And Greg was on the police department, and I worked for different members of Congress. Well, one member at a time, but 3 of them for my career.
Okay.
And raised him, and let's see.
And what in the world brought you here?
We always vacationed here, and Greg always said, after I retire from the police department, we're going to move to Myrtle Beach. So here we are.
I see. And you would visit Episcopal churches here, and then you found, a little serendipitously, found Father Tipton.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I had stopped in the office before we came that week, and Elaine had been working there then, and she gave me the bulletin from probably on a Monday, and I was on there. It was probably the Sunday bulletin before, and gave me a newsletter and everything. She goes, "Why would you want to go anywhere else?" So I tried it, and I said, "She's right."
She's right. And I guess, in case people don't know, it's Elaine Richardson.
Rutherford. Well,
Rutherford
now.
And she was, I guess, like sort of in what was she?
Well, she did a lot with the youth in Sunday school and that.
That's what she was doing when I met her. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you got involved with Father Tipton, and when did Brent produce Austin? With some help, not just Brent, but
yeah, she was born in 2005.
2005.
But we didn't know her at the time. We didn't meet her at the time.
Uh-huh.
So we didn't meet her till she was 18 months old.
Tell us a little about that.
Well, he had been dating Betsy, and then they broke up, and then she had a baby, and I said, well, let's see what plays out here. And she came to Brent at some point and said, this is your child.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we got to know her, and she was.
Right.
She looked very much like Brent did when he was young.
Uh-huh.
So, and she became a big part of our lives.
Yeah. When did Brent have his accident?
In 2010, in July, he lost his leg in an automobile accident. Mm-hmm. And at that time, Austin was 5, and in November, she had her stroke,
mm-hmm.
which ended up being a big, huge blood clot on her brain. She
Mm-hmm.
was flown to MUSC Children's Hospital, and they operated right away. And they never found a reason for the stroke and the blood clot, but that 18 months later is where her cancer appeared.
Mm-hmm.
So as I look back, every 18 months, her cancer, she'd go through all the treatments and have a few months of, but then it would always come back.
Yeah. And she was there must have been suffering, but she didn't manifest it particularly.
No, she didn't. She went through a tremendous amount, all those surgeries, radiation, chemotherapy, till it made her so sick. And finally, they couldn't do anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I often heard Bishop Curry talking about living on love.
Yeah.
And that's what she did her whole last year, because she was under no treatment, and they had told us she could go at any time.
Right.
And she lived on love her whole last year, all the prayers from church and family.
Mm-hmm.
That's what kept her going. But she had a true belief in the Lord. She led a lot of people to Him. Through her treatment, she met more people just by people looking at her and wanting to talk with her about her experiences and things. So
Mm-hmm.
she was a special child.
What was her relationship with this church?
Well, she started coming with me.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was 18 months old, I started bringing her, and she was baptized here
Mm-hmm.
when she was probably 6 or 7.
And that was still Father Tipton did it.
No, actually it was Alec Barron.
It was Father Barron
Mm-hmm.
did the baptism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She went up to him one day, I'm ready to get baptized.
Oh, uh-huh.
Because your mother hadn't allowed it before that, so she
Right.
wanted to.
Well, we have more than one sect and worship involved here. Yeah. And were there youth activities? We didn't really have a group, did we?
Well, yeah, there was a Sunday school. There was a Godly Play, I think it was called. They had that then. So she came. Oh, she loved it. And even to the point when she couldn't walk up the stairs anymore to the Sunday school, they'd have it downstairs, and she was there on those Sundays, so she could still come.
And
she loved Vacation Bible School.
Yeah.
She that was the highlight of her summer.
Tell us about that.
Well, she just loved coming. She loved being with the kids. I can remember. Oh gosh, excuse me. When the last year that she was living and was here, she wanted to do something for the kids. So she said, let's do piñatas. So we went and got piñatas, and she and her little friend filled them with so much candy, and that was her job. That last one she was here, her dad came and hung them from the tree, and that was one of the stations when the kids were going around. Mm-hmm. They enjoyed that. That was her gift to them. And then one year when she liked order, she don't like the kids ripping a race, and then Miss Elsie always did the music program. And so I heard her.
This is Elsie Pollock.
Miss Elsie Pollock. And I heard she was over there, and the kids were acting up, and Austin goes, you all just need to behave yourselves, because Miss Elsie is old and she doesn't need to hear all this.
That's marvelous. Now we had this building by then.
Mhm.
And was the youth activity over in the parish hall?
Yes.
'Cause that's perfect, because that's where Miss Ruby did her.
Yeah, they were over there all the time.
Now the Vacation Bible School, was it on our campus? Or? And it was more than one church,
Oh,
wasn't it?
yeah, well, no,
It was just us?
yes, most of the time it was just us, but,
With
yeah.
children from
Correct.
other faiths came. Yeah. Did you ever assist with that?
I did, a lot of times I did the food, the snacks.
Was Elaine in charge? Who was in charge of?
Different people were, every time we had it, a different member of the church usually was.
And it was more than it was like a week, wasn't it? Or 2 weeks?
No, it was 1 week, Monday through Friday.
Yeah. I remember Rita making food and coming over and being sort of involved. But, yeah. Well, what did Austin really like to do?
Well, she loved to read her Bible. She had we tried to get her an older Bible, but we had to take it back because her brain cancer was progressing, and she still did all the ones from her childhood that had the pictures and everything. But oftentimes I'd go out in the morning, she'd be just sitting there reading her Bible. She just, it all just clicked with her, and she knew how to be good to people, and she didn't understand why people weren't good to each other, because even though she had this terrible, had been dealt this hand in life, she just went along with it, and she was remarkable, really. Way better than we adults could ever imagine being.
Yeah, well, she had impact on us adults.
Yes, because, yes.
There's a program, I think it's called Happy Days. Wrong.
Run out.
Is that the wrong name?
No, Happy Day, yeah.
Tell us about that.
Oh, her camp?
Her camp.
Oh,
Yeah.
her camp, Happy Days.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there was 2 camps that she went to, but one of them, every summer, for the week of 4th of July, the children fighting cancer and their siblings could come to a camp and just forget about everything. And they had so many activities for them, and it was just wonderful, and it was a time that they got to be kids and not worry about their disease.
And where was this?
So out in the country. I didn't take her. Her mom always took her to drop her off.
Somewhere in our county? Or?
No, down outside of Charleston.
I see.
But I think it's moved again. But that was Camp Happy Days. And then the brain tumor people also had a Camp Rise Above, is what theirs was. But it was a day camp, but it was 3 or 4 days.
And it was
she
also
loved that. That was in Charleston,
Charleston.
down by MUSC, the Children's Hospital.
Yeah.
So she enjoyed that. Got to have, you know what, I look back on it, she never got to go to the prom, but at Camp Happy Days, they bought them beautiful dresses and dressed them up, did their hair, nails, and they got to go to a prom.
That's marvelous.
Yeah.
I had, it's easy for you to talk me into things, but I remember trying to help Camp Happy Days with contributions. And, never really knew exactly what it was doing, but
right, it was doing good things. Yeah.
What was its dimensions? How many kids were there? Ballpark?
At
10,
camp?
20, 100?
Oh, I don't know. Probably hundreds.
Hundreds, yeah.
You know what? You don't realize there's so many children with cancer in this
sort
area.
of from everywhere, right? And
yeah, all over the lower part of this.
Was the Hollings Center where treatment was?
Yes,
Yeah.
she went for her radiation there. Yeah, but they had to get an apartment because it was so many weeks down there, and we would just go down once or twice a week to see her. It was sad times.
Yeah.
But you know, she never complained, even when she was so burnt from the radiation, and she was my hero, I'm telling you.
Well,
if I ever have to go through anything like that, I don't want to be, I want to be like her.
We don't need to go into detail, but of course, what's her mother's name?
Betsy
and Brent didn't get married and couldn't really live together, but Brent was heavily involved.
Yeah.
Can you tell us something about that?
Well, he got Austin every other weekend, and so he would stay at our house when he had her. And we just were a good family structure and did all kinds of stuff with her, and never thinking that she'd really not be here anymore. But that kind of staying in the back of my mind. I never wanted to really admit that she might not.
Brent showed I mean, you were there and I wasn't, but didn't he show a level of commitment and concern that maybe was a little surprising for?
Well, he stepped right up, and they had a special bond. Those two did. They certainly did.
And he could really get to her level in play, and she could get sort of to his level in play too. So
yes. Oh, he would let her do anything: paint his fingernails, put lipstick on, and fix his hair when he had it.
Yeah.
She just they laughed a lot together.
Yeah. We don't understand it at any level, but there is a theology of suffering sort of has to happen. It does have to happen to all of us. And with some, they live through and make an example. And we usually describe such people as saints. So Austin is to some degree a saint.
Yes.
And that means that she doesn't exactly go away. She provides an example.
Yes, oftentimes I'll think, what would Austin say about this, or what would Austin do right now? When she was in this church, she liked to give out those finger puppets and her crosses, and if any child was being a little noisy, she'd run one over to them and give it to them, and guess what? It works. They would just start playing with the puppet, and she gave a lot of her crosses out to people, and she'd pull up beside somebody. We'd see somebody on the side of the road. Oh, roll the window down. She wanted to give them a cross, or we got to give them at least $5, so we do that. She had a big heart for others, always thought of others before herself, even all that she was going through.
Well, with all the different debates, whatever this is Christianity, and she is professing it. And in a way we can't forget, and things she did we can keep doing. Exactly.
Oh, I've carried her crosses with me and her puppets, and calmed many children in stores with them.
And so it's not a Sunday thing.
No.
That's just her life.
Right. Yeah. I found her diary, which I hadn't found before she died, and on her 3 big wishes, I'll never, I cried when I read them. Her first wish was that my cancer would go away, and her second wish was that Jesus and God will speak to her, and the third wish is that love keeps going.
Wow.
She had it figured out. That was when she was 9. I found that diary. Now, love keeps going, and I said, yes, it does. She's gotten her answers now. She had lots of questions for Jesus. She told me that.
I suspect she is keeping Jesus fairly busy.
I imagine.
Yeah. Could she do school at all, or did?
She did. She had to be enrolled in school. They do that, but never could get those times tables. That was a struggle for her. She never got them, but I mean, everything that she did and could do, she did.
Right. So.
Even though she was paralyzed from that stroke.
Right.
And then she had another one later on, and that really paralyzed this arm. Although she could still walk until a few months before her death.
get us back into the dates. When she was 9, what year was that?
Well, 2014, she died in 17, yeah.
Yeah.
When she just turned 12.
So she, Father Barron did the baptism,
Oh. Mm-hmm.
but then she did come to know Father Will.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
She knew Father Will very well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then, were there other places y'all went?
I mean, churches or?
No.
What do you mean? Oh, she tried to do anything she could.
Uh-huh.
We'd go to the park. Went on, even to the beach. We got one of those wheelchairs that Surfside had it at the time. You could just borrow it and take it out on the beach with the big tires and everything. So she did get to do that. Not in the hot weather, but in the cooler weather. We'd put her in that, did that. Yeah. And she got lots of opportunities because they would take the kids to amusement parks.
Mm-hmm.
There was another organization in Charleston, Courageous Kids, that she loved that lady, and she did a lot of things with them. They had programs and opportunities that these children wanted to get. Like one day, just Austin, and we went to a tea house, and that was that, and they had fancy dresses for her to try on. It was just all her family, and that was just one day, and then went on a shopping trip to Target afterward. But those were the things that she loved. Target and Claire's. She would go buy people things at those stores. Always need a new pair of earrings.
and Brent was willing to have lipstick and nails done.
Afterward, I'd say, "Are you gonna?" She always painted Clemson colors, you know. She went to Clemson. I said, "You gonna take them off?" "Nope, leave it on till it wears off." Wow. He was a good sport with her. Yeah, because really, all our lives we were just trying to make her happy and have her have experiences that we figured she might not get to have, and anything that she could do.
Things were compressed, weren't they? I mean, in each day had a lot going on, and then although she might not get timetables, there's a wisdom here that the rest of us strive for 70 years. She seemed to have attained a lot quicker.
She did. It just was all very clear to her. That things we struggle with, she didn't have any problems with it. She just took it.
And then, was the church of help to you?
Yes.
And when she did take her leave?
Yes, I had a Stephen minister. I had a couple of them throughout all this. Yeah, several.
Since not everybody will know, what is Stephen ministry? What does it do?
Oh, they help you a lot by just talking with you and getting you through what you need to get through.
And we see them each Sunday over in our little prayer area.
The intercessory prayer, or you mean, okay.
Right immediately after communion, an individual can go over. And this has been comforting to you.
That too, yes.
Yeah. Have you been on the other side of the Stephen ministry? Have you tried to do it? Have you tried to be a Stephen minister?
Oh, sometimes I try.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I learned a lot through Austin's journey. Yeah.
And we've had different priests, and happy times and sad times, but the church has been useful to you.
I don't know how people don't have a church that they belong to, and you need the support, you need the fellowship of just knowing somebody's there with you.
I think so. Well, she did, and she is in it both ways. She's providing that fellowship and providing the example, as well as receiving it. And we speak of ministry. This is ministry, and she ministered to us as we tried to minister to her.
Much more so. Got much more from her.
And then that does not end.
No.
Okay. Well, people who don't know often ask, why in the world do you have a statue? So maybe we should go to the statue.
I wanted something to honor her here because she was a big part of this campus. A lot of people never met her, the newer people, but a lot of the old timers still remember her, and oh, how she loved to help on snack with the snacks. We would do snacks, and she would have to have this, that, and everything else. Or can I go and help so and so next Sunday? And she would do that, and yeah, okay. But I wanted to have something here for me as well as for everybody else, because it just means a lot to me. And sometimes we just come here to her statue instead of going to the cemetery, or in addition to going to the cemetery.
Right. The cemetery is in Conway.
Right.
Across from Coastal. And
That's where she's buried.
yeah. How did you choose the statue?
Oh, I went to so many different places, and you know, I know I wanted an angel, and they were too womanly. You know, they were tall, and they were. So I said, I happened to go over to True Blue, and they had two children, well, younger people's angel statues, and I had to look at them. And I'd stand beside one, and I loved that one, and then the other one was in the back, and I'd go back visit that. So finally I said, all right, Austin, I'm going to stand beside each of them, and you tell me which one you want me to get. And then I kind of got the nudge for the one that I got. And then...
So, are you being metaphorical, or Austin actually was?
Well, I felt, no, yeah, she had passed, but
she was there.
She was there, and I said, I can't make up my mind. And then
she did make up your mind.
Yeah.
And did I don't know how this works. Who did you talk to about? We don't just put statues anywhere.
No, I had to get approval. Well, I talked to Father Will in the vestry, where they wanted me to put it, which I love that spot out there. I had thought I wanted it down there, but I like it here. And then I had to get in touch with the monument company to do the base, and I had the statue, but I didn't have the base, so they did that, and that took a long time to get that, but it all came together.
And when it was installed, was there some kind of ceremony?
We did have something on a Sunday afterward. Father Will and Father Jason was here too, so they dedicated it on a really rainy day.
Now, Father Jason wasn't here while she was on the earth, was she?
Yes, but she was not coming to church anymore. She wasn't able to. A lot of times she would sleep till noon and then just have a few hours up. We never could plan anything the last few months and everything because she was sleeping all the time, or there's such a short window when we could see her and things. Right. Yeah.
It seemed like she had this wisdom way beyond her years, and a grace that she handled her situation through. Was that evident before the cancer, or how did this change her? How did she become the way she was?
I'm sure it was the Lord's work. I really do, because to be that, well, this all happened so young. She was only 5 when she had her stroke, so. But no, it just developed, and she, like Father Will said, she was a little wise, wonderful little lady, really. She just figured everything out and just knew so much. Knew so much.
She had a role, and do you think she understood kind of her place in that role?
Yes, she told me one time. She told me, you know, Grandma, I think I got cancer so I can help everybody else. I really do. I'm out here to help people. I want to help them. And she did. She was.
And then for you, going through that hardship, you know, Jack and I were talking, you're always here, you're always smiling, you're at every event, you're one of the most positive and very outgoing people. You know, how did you find that? You know, how has she affected you?
I had to dig deep for that. It was not easy, but I do that because I have to keep going. I know that. I mean, that year, Brent lost his leg in July. She had her stroke in November 2010. I couldn't wait for that year to be over because both of them were in wheelchairs at the same time. Christmas was pushing them both in wheelchairs. That was hard. And yeah, but I don't know. I know God gives me the strength. And you know, even through her journey, there were times when I said, oh, she's gonna make it. I know she is. God's not, I mean, it's gotta happen. And then when it didn't, and it didn't turn out the way I always thought it would, I said, I've got to hold on to my faith. I have to hold on to my faith because others in my family, it's just dropped away. But I knew that I needed that so much, and that's what keeps me going. I love doing for others too, and helping others. I try to do what Austin, you know, she was always trying to please people and help people, and that's kind of like, well, when I worked for congressmen and congresswoman, but my job was helping people, so I just stayed with that.
So often loss will cause people, you know, there's two ways, and it's either towards kind of positivity and recovery, or a lot of people, I know people who have turned their back on the Lord because of someone being taken. And I've often, since I lost my mother, I became more spiritual, and I've often tried to figure out though, what is it exactly? Because it's hard to grasp what the change is or even why, but I definitely think that part of it is honoring them through your positivity and your actions and living life for them.
Totally. That's what we do. But I know how people fall away too.
Yeah, who knows which is...
They're angry. They're angry and...
Yeah, and angry with God.
Yep.
And is it angry with God or just decide that God doesn't exist? What's the...
Probably both. Well, anger. More anger.
It's hard to be angry at nothing, at a vacuum.
Because you got to. Which shows that you do believe there is a God if you're angry with him.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you, if those most intimate with you reject church and question the divine, how do you get up and get here to 8 o'clock service? And
I just have to. I just have to.
And the ECW is a comfort to you?
I've always been involved. Any church I've been in, I've always been involved in things, even as a young woman. I guess you know what, we learn from our parents. And they don't have to tell us. My parents were very active in their church and did a lot of things in the community too.
Yeah. We have broken families, and we have families where the kids just don't come to church. Do kids go to church because parents make them? And does that finally work? I mean, that...
I don't know, you tell me. No.
Yeah, it's a question of... we have so many families where husband comes, wife doesn't, wife comes, husband doesn't, one child comes, the other doesn't. And
it was better when we all came to church together, I can say that, but...
As families reshape and look different, does the church become some sort of a family?
Sure.
It's my own, people die and things get smaller and tighter, but the church doesn't get smaller.
I know the name. Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much.
Here's a funny story about Austin. Well, it's a sweet story about Austin. You probably don't know it. When she was 4, and it was Easter Sunday, we all came to church. We got in the back of the church because we got here a little bit tardy. We sat down. She took off. She's running up to the front. She's running every aisle, back and forth. Finally, Susan Geiger comes and says, "Marsha, you have got to get Austin. We cannot even start the procession." It was Tommy Dibden. And so I said, "Come on." I got her back to her seat, and she said, "Where is he?" "Where is he, Grandma?" And I said, "Who?" "Jesus.
Oh, where?
You said he was raised from the dead today on Easter. Now where is he?"
Oh, that's marvelous. Yeah.
Yeah. She came to church fully anticipating to see him
Yeah.
because we had talked about the story, and
she ran looking for him.
yes, she ran all over that church.
That and of our priests for that to happen to, Tommy is the appropriate one. Because,
He was just waiting, but finally they had to get going.
yeah.
Yeah. That's good. And another time when she used to come to the healing service with me on Thursdays a lot, because when she wasn't in school much, and one day we're going in the chapel when it was over there, and she goes, "Grandma, I don't want you asking for prayers for me today, because there's going to be somebody there who needs them more." That's the kind of child she was. So don't ask them for me today.
And the healing service then was in the chapel, not in the sanctuary.
Right.
It was that Father Will, or he had different priests that would come.
Right. Sometimes Reverend Sandy would be there. And, yeah. But Father Will was there too.
Yeah.
We can get all the cobwebs off her. Oh. And she was such a zha-zha little girl. I had to put that, "She who leaves a trail of glitter is never forgotten." That was her. That was her.